Hi, my name is Jordan Halic. I'm currently a junior pursuing a degree in Human Development and Family Studies.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Rush. I'm currently a junior pursuing a degree in communications.
We are students from the University of Illinois studying abroad at Gustolab International Food Systems and Sustainability in Rome, Italy.
This video is created for a food and media course.
The main purpose of this video is to talk about the need for climate action worldwide, as well as the way the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are working to combat this issue.
Climate change affects every country around the world. It disrupts national economies and affects millions of lives.
Climate change is caused by human activities and threatens the way that we live, as well as the future of our planet. If we address this issue, we can build a sustainable world for everyone, including the generations to come.
Weather patterns are changing, sea levels are rising, and weather events are becoming more extreme.
The oceans have warmed significantly, and the amounts of snow and ice have diminished. Between 1901 and 2010, the global average sea level rose by 19 centimeters. Additionally, greenhouse gas emissions are now at their highest levels in history.
Greenhouse gases occur naturally and are essential to the survival of humans and millions of other living things because it keeps some of the sun's warmth from reflecting back into space and makes Earth livable. But because of this immense amounts of industrialization, deforestation, and large-scale agriculture, the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere have skyrocketed.
The most abundant greenhouse gas, which accounts for about 2/3 of the total gas emissions, is carbon dioxide, a large product of the burning of fossil fuels. The burning of fossil fuels by humans is the largest source of emissions of carbon dioxide. We burn fossil fuels when we drive our cars, power our businesses, and keep the lights on in our homes.
Without action on our part, the world's average surface level temperature is likely to surpass 3 degrees Celsius this century. This means that the world's oceans will warm and ice will continue to melt.
Major ecosystems will face irreversible damage, which will affect the future of our planet. The poorest and most vulnerable people are being affected the most.
There are now many more affordable solutions that countries can use to reduce emissions and increase efforts to combat the effects of climate change. Many more people are turning to renewable energy and various other measures to face the problems at hand.
Some of the target goals for climate action by the UN is to, first, integrate climate change measures into national policies, strategies, and planning. 2, improve education and awareness on climate change.
3, strengthen resilience to climate-related hazards and natural disasters worldwide, focusing specifically on developing nations. And 4, promote mechanisms for raising capacity for effective climate change-related planning and management in least developed and developing countries, including focusing on women, youth, and marginalized communities.
However, climate change is still a global challenge that affects countries worldwide. It is an issue that requires solutions at an international level in order to help both developed and developing countries move towards a low-carbon economy.
We think this topic is extremely important, but it's possible that many do not understand the full extent to the problems we are facing. We think it is crucial that more people are educated on the repercussions climate change is having on our world.
For example, it is likely many people do not know these facts about climate change. Firstly, global emissions of carbon dioxide have increased by almost 50% since 1990. To put this even more into perspective, the emissions grew more quickly between 2000 and 2010 alone than in each of the 3 previous decades.
Climate change is not only detrimental to our environment, it also affects many other aspects of people's lives. It changes the rainfall patterns, causing drought in some places and flooding in others, which affects the agricultural productivity of those areas. This directly affects the amount of food that can be produced and determines if there will be enough for those living there.
Additionally, there are huge amounts of carbon dioxide that is being absorbed by the oceans, causing acidification. This, in turn, influences the health of the oceans as well as the health of the people who depend on it.
To strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change, many countries have adopted the Paris Agreement in December of 2015. In this agreement, all countries committed to take action to address the issue of climate change.
In addition, many businesses and investors also committed themselves to lowering their emissions. This agreement went into force in November of 2016. As of April 2018, 175 countries had ratified the agreement and 10 developing countries had submitted their first plans for responding to climate change.
Countries are making amazing strides at tackling the problem of climate change, but there are also many things that we can do too.
It is important that we take initiative to combat the problems of climate change. Before studying abroad, I was not as familiar with different ways to reduce my own carbon footprint.
Before coming abroad, there were some things I was accustomed to doing in order to save energy. For example, we make sure to unplug microwaves, toasters, TVs, or any other electronics while we are not using them. Even though this seems simple, it is a good way to conserve energy. Italy was one of the countries that signed the Paris Agreement in 2016. They have cut greenhouse gas emissions by 23% since 1990 and have invested €4 billion to cut emissions between now and 2020. After studying abroad for several months in Rome, however, I have seen various ways that people here reduce negative effects of climate change.
For example, it is a common practice in Italy for products to be sold directly from the producer, such as the farm, to the consumer. This phenomenon, sometimes known as farm to table, is gaining popularity in countries like the United States as well. Shopping locally, like at a farmer's market, helps to support local businesses while also helping prevent trucks from driving far distances, therefore reducing the amount of gas emissions from those vehicles.
Another big way to reduce gas emissions is to bike, walk, or take public transportation. Because we don't have a car while studying in Rome, we always walk, take the bus, or metro to get around. Using public transportation is not only cost efficient, but it also significantly reduces the amount of gas emissions we release into the atmosphere. Increased greenhouse gas emissions from cars and trucks are a huge problem that affects climate change.
Another way that we have seen energy being conserved while abroad is using a drying rack to dry clothes after washing. This is an extremely common practice in Italy that I did not consider before studying abroad. Dryers use up tons of energy, so using dryer racks to air dry clothes is much more energy efficient.
Reducing our impact on the environment can continue even after our experience studying abroad. One important way is to make your voice heard.
I urge all of you studying abroad to examine the ways the country you are living in is working to solve this issue. Many countries have different ways they are combating the negative effects of climate change, and these techniques can be extremely useful if implemented in the United States.
For example, I'm going to begin shopping more locally after I return home in order to reduce my carbon footprint and support those who are producing food organically and locally. By buying products that are both local and in season, I'm supporting businesses that produce way less fossil fuels because they are not transporting the goods thousands of miles to be sold.
I am also going to make more of an effort to use public transportation or carpool with friends in order to get from one location to another. Both at home and at school, I typically drive from place to place, but substituting several of these trips with a bus can make a big impact on the amount of fossil fuels I'm releasing into the environment.
These are just a couple of examples of how our time studying abroad has introduced us to ways that we can reduce our impact on climate change. Learning and implementing these strategies, as well as introducing them to others, may seem small, but it can really make a big impact.
Social scientists have found that when one person makes a sustainability-oriented decision, other people do too. They believe this occurs because we constantly evaluate what our peers are doing, and we adjust our own beliefs and actions accordingly. When others see you taking environmental action, like conserving energy, they will feel more compelled to act as well.
Additionally, it is so important to speak up about the problems the world faces in regards to climate change and its detrimental effects on our environment. There are simple steps we can take. One example is sharing posts on social media about the effects of climate change. A second is becoming educated on what the government officials in your area are doing to combat these issues.
It is so important for all of us to become educated on this problem because so many people do not know what is truly going on in our world. Making conscious decisions about your own individual impact on the environment is crucial in making a difference for the future. If we don't act, the Earth may face irreversible damage for future generations. You can visit the website www.un.org/sustainable development to find out even more ways you can make a difference.
We hope that this video shed some light on this issue and gave you some new ways that you can make a positive impact.